Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who masterminded the October 7 attacks, has been killed by Israeli soldiers. We take a look at whether this will serve as a turning point for the war in Gaza. Following North Korea disconnecting inter-Korean roads a few days ago, its leader Kim Jong-un now threatens to use force if South Korea infringes on the regime's sovereignty, as he calls the South an enemy. The Finance Ministry's latest assessment shows demand at home looks to be on the road to recovery, while the pace remains varied depending on the sector. It's October 18th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. We begin with the killing of the leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, by Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza. Responding to this, Israel says it'll continue to fight. Cha Yoon-kyung has the latest.
On Thursday, Israel confirmed that the de facto leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, had been killed in an operation in southern Gaza. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said that Israel settled a years-long score with the leader, who is a despicable murderer and terrorist. According to CNN, an Israeli drone flying over Gaza spotted Sinwar's body in the rubble of a building struck by an Israeli tank. Israeli officials say they ran DNA tests and used dental records to confirm that it was Sinwar. The leader is believed to be behind the deadly attacks on October 7, 2023, which sparked the current conflict in the Middle East, leaving hundreds of Israelis dead and many more injured. In response to the death of Sinwar, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the moment marked the beginning of the day after Hamas, calling on those holding Israelis captive to surrender and return hostages, promising safety for those who do so. He also vowed Israel will continue to fight, saying it will continue with all its strength to bring back the hostages taken by Hamas last year.
Yahya Sinwar is dead. He was killed in Rafah by the brave soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces. While this is not the end of the war in Gaza, it's the beginning of the end.
Meanwhile, according to Russian news agency TASS, citing Lebanon's LBCI news website, Khaled Mashal, chief of the Hamas office abroad, has taken on the role of acting Hamas leader. LBCI News reported that Mashal is now responsible for communication with the key parties involved in talks on the release of Israeli hostages. Following Sinwar's death, Hamas has expressed concern that discussions on prisoner exchanges and a ceasefire will become more challenging. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
Now, eyes are on what will happen in the Middle East now that the Hamas leader is dead. Our Ian Hee spoke with an expert to discuss the potential implications.
A good day for the world is what U.S. President Joe Biden said on Israel's claim on Thursday of killing Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. He described it as an opportunity to free hostages and end the war in Gaza, emphasizing that this is the direction the U.S. intends to take. Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris echoed Joe Biden's views.
And it is time for the day after to begin without Hamas in power. We will not give up on these goals, and I will always work to create a future of peace, dignity, and security for all.
Yahya Sinwar, who had long been at the top of Israel's target list, was described by the United States as a major obstacle to peace. With his removal, will U.S. optimism for a potential resolution to the Gaza Strip actually unfold? This stands in contrast to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's assertion that the war is not over, emphasizing the ongoing goal of disarming Hamas. That is why experts say that while Yahya Sinwar's death opens a new chapter, there are split ends to the potential outcome.
So, I mean, the pressure on Netanyahu will be there within like 3 or 4 days. But the day after is not here yet, and we don't know how the Netanyahu will gonna react.
The professor notes that this signifies a new chapter, with significant pressure anticipated on Netanyahu to bring the war to an end, including from the U.S. However, some opposing views argue that this could also open the door to renewed aggression in the Middle East conflict.
You know, it will gonna give another good motivation for Netanyahu to just push little bit forward to make an aggression, not only to Hezbollah, but also expand it to Houthis.
While we'll have to see how much pressure the U.S. and other authorities will exert and whether it will be effective, the ultimate decision lies in Netanyahu's hands. Yoon-hee, Arirang News.
The National Intelligence Service has confirmed North Korea's direct military involvement in Russia's war with Ukraine. According to the NIS on Friday, North Korea began deploying around 1,500 special forces troops to Russia as of October 8th, with more deployments anticipated. The soldiers are currently stationed at Russian military bases undergoing training before deployment. The NIS also reported that North Korea has supplied over 13,000 containers of weapons, including artillery shells, missiles, and anti-tank rockets to Russia since last year. The NIS official emphasized that the allegations of direct military cooperation between Russia and North Korea have now been officially confirmed. In response to this, South Korea says it's not going to sit idly by and will mobilize all available means to respond with the international community. This came as the presidential office on Friday said that President Yoon Suk-yeol presided over an emergency security meeting with top security officials regarding North Korea deploying troops to support Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The participants also recognized that the continued expansion of military cooperation between Pyongyang and Moscow is not only a threat to South Korea's security, but also to the international community. The top office added that it has been tracking the deployment from the early stages with Seoul's friendly nations and will continue to do so going forward. In the meantime, North Korea's Kim Jong-un has taken to renewed bellicose rhetoric against South Korea amid the regime's designation of Seoul as a hostile state. Our correspondent Kim Jong-sil covers his latest comments and the response here.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un points at a large map on the table. Though the map is blurred, the word Seoul is visible at the top. A TV screen behind him shows a map of the Korean peninsula with a thick blue line drawn near what appears to be the military demarcation line. The photos, released by the North state-run Korean Central News Agency on Friday, also included Kim's remarks during his visit to the command of the 2nd Army Corps the day before. Kim referred to South Korea as a foreign enemy state and threatened to use military force without conditions if South Korea infringes on North Korean sovereignty. Seoul's Ministry of Unification reiterated its position on Friday.
We warn that any provocation from North Korea will be met with a strong response backed by the powerful ROK-US alliance.
The North's leader also mentioned the destruction of the cross-border roads, stating that it signifies more than just a physical closure and serves as a symbol of the complete severance of bad blood with Seoul.
The term Seoul ultimately carries the significance of the Blue House in the past and now the presidential office. The North is sending a message that it will target Seoul, including the presidential office, if UAVs were to distribute leaflets again.
Seoul neither confirmed nor denied its involvement with the alleged unmanned aerial vehicles. The KCNA also carried statements from Kim Yo-jong, who criticized reports by South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff accusing Pyongyang of using footage of the North's road demolitions taken by the South Korean military without authorization. Kim Yo-jong claimed that the South, too, has used KCNA media footage without authorization.
Vice Department Director Kim Yo-jong's claims of copyright infringement are completely groundless. Our media uses KCNA materials legally by paying royalties through a Japanese intermediary. It is in fact North Korea that has been using our content without permission.
Deputy spokesperson Kim added that North Korea should act responsibly as a member of the Berne Convention, the international treaty for copyright protection. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, South Korea will launch an annual defense drill on Sunday amid heightened tensions on the peninsula. The Hoguk exercise, involving all branches of the armed forces and U.S. Forces Korea, will run for about 3 weeks until November 8th. Led by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the exercise seeks to enhance joint operational capabilities and military readiness. The exercise this year will mobilize an expanded number of service members and equipment as North Korea escalates its bellicose rhetoric. Domestic demand appears to be on the road to recovery, but the pace remains varied depending on the sector. Now, this is according to the Finance Ministry's latest assessment. Moon Hye-ryun has this report.
South Korea's economy continues to recover primarily due to strong export performance, while domestic consumption is showing gradual signs of improvement. That's according to the latest Economic Green Book, a monthly economic assessment report released by the Finance Ministry on Friday.
Our economy continues to recover, led by exports and manufacturing, with price stability improving. Domestic demand is gradually picking up, mainly in facility investment and services, but recovery rates vary across sectors.
The government has been consistently diagnosing domestic consumption as showing signs of recovery since May, citing improvements in the services sector among other factors. However, it has also noted a disparity between the recovery of exports and domestic demand. Service production increased by 0.2% in August compared to the month before, marking the third consecutive month of growth. Retail sales, an indicator of consumer spending, were also up by 1.7% month-on-month. However, compared to the same month last year, retail sales decreased by 1.3%, showing an ongoing downward trend. The government reported that it expects an increase in retail sales to be tallied for September due to recorded growth in credit card spending and domestic car sales, also noting that the Chuseok holiday and the release of the new iPhone series could have an impact. While domestic demand has shown mixed signals, exports continue to perform well on the back of the booming IT sector. Exports increased by 7.5% in September, marking 12 consecutive months of growth. Driven by strong export performance, manufacturing production also increased by 4.1% in September compared to the previous month, and by 3.8% compared to the same period last year. The government maintained its assessment that inflation is stabilizing. Consumer prices rose by 1.6% year-on-year in September, marking the first time since March 2021 that the growth rate has fallen below 2%. The government identified potential risks, including concerns about a global economic slowdown and fluctuations in commodity prices. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East, such as between Israel and Iran, could lead to volatility in international oil prices. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
China's economic growth in the third quarter remained below its government's target for the year. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics on Friday, the country's GDP for the July to September period rose 4.6% year-on-year, below the government's target of 5% for 2024. This not only marks the second straight quarter that China's GDP has fallen below the 5% target, but it was also lower than the 4.7% growth of the second quarter. The Bureau remained optimistic, however, citing the government's new stimulus measures and the economy remaining, quote, generally stable. In other news, author Kang made her first public appearance on Thursday since being named a Nobel laureate, saying she hopes to complete 3 more books in the next few years. Now, many industry insiders and readers are hoping for a boost in the art of reading and more. An Song-jin explains.
The first Asian woman to win the Nobel Prize for Literature, author Kang is being praised as Korean literature's equivalent of K-pop's BTS, both leading figures that reflect Korean culture in the world.
I think this is very nice because I think Korean literature is very good and deserves more recognition, especially abroad.
Seeing an Asian female author in this generation win an award, and especially the Nobel Prize, is such a big thing, and I do think it's a really big gateway for a lot of females and a lot of minorities.
As well as garnering attention outside of Korea, Han is igniting a small light that is bringing positive change, especially in the printing and publishing industry. This printing company, which had been seeing a decrease in revenue over recent years, has suddenly seen a surge in the number of copies printed.
Kang's novels are flying off the shelves after her Nobel Prize win. This printing company has been working day and night to meet the demand.
After the announcement, staff at this company have turned in their weekend to cater to the requests.
I feel great and thankful to her. I hope more authors get the chance so the publishing company can become even more dynamic. With fewer people reading books these days, I'm hoping this will turn things around.
Written in Korean, her books are easily approachable and enjoyable for domestic readers.
I felt proud as a Korean because I was able to read the book in Korean without having to worry about understanding the nuance or the meaning like other award-winning books.
Hangang's win is a milestone for Korean literature, but some say more is needed to be done to really develop Korean literature.
I think it's necessary to foster a reading culture which allows people to read and buy books at libraries or bookstores for more occasions like these. It's important because I think Korea still lacks that bit.
Many in the literature industry hope that her Nobel Prize win will rejuvenate the fiction market and potentially even lead to a new boom. Han Sung-jin, Arirang News.
It's time for our weekly arts and culture segment. As always, our culture correspondent Song Yujin joins me here in the studio. Happy Friday, Yujin.
Happy Friday, Jong-un.
What do you have for us today?
Well, Jong-un, today I want to talk about the show that South Korea is caught up in great excitement. It's the Netflix's cooking competition show, Culinary Class Wars. Now, personally, I think that what made this show such a big hit is not only just the intense competition between the chefs, but also their individual stories that unfolded throughout the 12-episode series. And throughout the 100 chefs who participated in the program, the journey of Korean-American Edward Lee left a lasting impression on viewers, especially here in Korea, thanks to the meaningful reason behind his decision to join the show. So for those who want to hear more about his story, first, take a look at my exclusive interview with the chef himself.
나에게는 에드워드라는 미국 이름이 있지만 저는 한국 이름도 있어요. 나에게 한국 이름은 균입니다. 그래서 이 요리는 이균이 만들었어요.
It looks like tteokbokki, Korea's beloved street food, but it's actually a creamy semi-freddo paired with a drink made of Korean melon, minari, and makgeolli. Chef Edward Lee's final creation on Netflix's Culinary Class Wars is a symbol of the journey he's embarked on throughout the show. So why did the winner of Iron Chef America and White House State Dinner guest chef choose to return to competition? In an exclusive interview with Arirang News, Chef Lee explains why.
I've been lately sort of rediscovering a lot of my Korean food heritage. And it just so happened that around the same time, it was a way for me to tell a personal story.
Chef Lee's culinary journey began and flourished in New York before moving to Kentucky and later Washington, D.C. Though he has spent most of his life in the U.S., his connection to Korea has always remained strong.
Even when I wasn't cooking Korean food, I always use Korean flavors, whether it's gochujang or doenjang or kanjang or, you know, the things. I grew up eating my grandmother's Korean food. And I think that's just part of my DNA.
Culinary Class Wars gave Chef Lee a unique chance to reconnect with that heritage through food. Throughout the show, he challenged himself to step away from his comfort zone, Southern American cuisine, and mostly try dishes he'd never cooked before.
The culture of Korea seems so far away, but it's really not. And it's also part of my culture too. There's a lot of people who have been saying, especially Korean Americans, who have been saying that I've never seen my story told on TV in such a big stage.
Cooking has been Chef Lee's dream since he was 10 years old. But over the years, it has evolved into something much more meaningful.
There's something just magical about being in a room full of people eating and smiling and laughing and having conversations. And I think you don't get that energy anywhere else.
So, what's next for the celebrated chef? He isn't planning to slow down anytime soon to get his job done.
Ultimately, my job as a chef is to bring happiness to people. And if I can continue to do that, then I've done my job.
Edward Lee started Culinary Class Wars as the world-renowned chef many of us know. But by the end, he has revealed something deeper to the world. He's not just Edward Lee. He's Edward Kyun Lee.
요즘에 너무너무 행복하고 너무 감사합니다.
A world-class chef, but so humble. I kind of see why he gets such a devoted following.
You're right, Jung-min. And based on my interview that I did with him, what I found really inspiring about Chef Lee is his relentless passion and energy, because a lot of people, including myself, thought that he has achieved it all. He has a really stellar career, but he's keep on challenging something new, like his participation in Culinary Class Wars. And he says that those challenges is really what makes him really feel alive, and it gets him going. So with Netflix just announcing this week that Culinary Class Wars will return with a season 2, we might be able to see him return to the show with a brand new role. And beyond cooking, Chef Lee is running the Lee Initiative as well, which is a nonprofit organization that offers leadership programs for women chefs and also mentorship for young aspiring chefs as well.
You never know. And Eugene, even though the first season of Culinary Class Wars ended last week, it's still drawing new viewers. I heard they launched a new service to cater to a broader audience.
You're right. So on Tuesday, Netflix started offering its audio description service for Culinary Class Wars Season 1. Now, this feature provides narration describing everything that's happening on screen, such as physical actions, facial expressions, costumes, and scene changes, making it accessible to those with visual impairments. So I personally hope that the streamer will expand this service to more languages so that the show can reach an even wider audience.
For sure. All right, our culture correspondent, Song Yujin, thank you, and I'll see you next week.
Always a pleasure.
Heavy autumn rain with strong winds will continue across the country tomorrow. The rain will stop around the central and southern coast tomorrow morning. A preliminary warning of heavy rain has been issued in the eastern parts of Gangwon-do province and some southern coastal areas. In addition, a heavy rain warning is issued in place on Jeju Island. Up to 120 millimeters of heavy rain will fall in eastern parts of Gangwon-do province by tomorrow, and over 100 on the south coast of Gyeongsang-namdo province. Other areas such as Seoul are expected to see a high amount of rainfall of up to 60 to 80 millimeters. In high mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province, where temperatures are low, there's a possibility that the first snow will fall. Tomorrow morning will start chilly at 16 degrees in Seoul. Highs will move up to 21 in Seoul, Gwangju, Daegu, and Gyeongju. On Sunday, it will be mostly sunny, but with the morning temperature in Seoul dropping to 9 degrees Celsius, the coldest weather of this fall is expected. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.